I'm super excited for this. I've not gotten to personally talk to anybody on our show who's been in a Saw movie. It's my favorite horror franchise. We're all huge fans of the Saw franchise, and you, of course, starred in Saw 5. You obviously survived all of your tests because you're great. Uh, you had to watch a woman get her head cut off. You watched a guy get blown up with bombs. You stabbed Megan Good in the neck, and then you cut your hand in half. What was it like working on that project?
I was terrified the whole time.
Oh my gosh.
So, so the story behind the Saw franchise is when I was shooting years prior, I was shooting a movie called George of the Jungle 2
Right.
for Disney. And our producer, Greg Hoffman, he was talking to me and he was telling me about his next project. And he's like, it's this horror film. I don't know. And he's like, it's low budget horror. I don't know what it's going to turn into. Right. And I was like, well, Greg, I want to be in it. And he was like, I don't know. He's like, it's really dark, twisted horror. I don't know, Julie. He goes, I don't even know how it's gonna turn out. Well, that was Saw.
Wow.
That was the first Saw. So then I think it was during Saw, it's either during Saw 2 or Saw 3. He had a heart attack and he passed away.
Mm.
And so when I got offered Saw 5, I felt like it was Greg going like, okay, girl, you wanted to be in this. But at that point, I had seen the first Saw and it fucked me up big time. Am I allowed to swear?
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
It fucked me up too.
Yeah, it fucked me. I find the Saw movies psychologically terrifying.
Yeah.
And like they just terrify you on a. It's not like a typical horror film. It damages you.
Right.
You know what I mean? So
Right.
I never watched them after. So I thought to myself too, wow, this is going to be a challenge being in a movie that really creeps me out. That puppet, I can't with the puppet. I can't. Okay. So when I was on set, my first day, our first scene up was the scene with the collars around our neck and the thing that chops your head off. And the set design is incredible. It's so real. Like it just feels so real when you're in it. And I remember it was a heavy choreographed scene. They had these guys behind the thing pulling the pulleys, and it was heavily choreographed. Who was moving forward when, who was, to make it look like we were all connected. We rehearsed. We all felt great. We were ready to shoot. And right before they went to roll cameras, I had freaked out and I said to David Hassel, the director, I said, wait a second. What's going to happen if I don't get to the key first? And he looked at me. He's like, well, cut. He's like, it's not real. Like, oh my God.
It really got to you.
It did. And I was there for 2 weeks filming and I had nightmares the whole time. And the crew was like, oh yeah, that'll happen to us during the first one. They're like, welcome to Saw. This is what happens on your first one. And when we got to that last scene with the spaghetti hand, that's what I call it, the spaghetti arm, I actually threw up on set during rehearsal because it was so I knew my hand wasn't being cut off, but it looked like it in that thing. And I freaked out and I got sick and like threw up on, like, I was just like, it was awful, but it was good for me to see if I could be in something that is so scary. Now, I've never watched it. That's the one movie of mine I have not, I can't.
Yeah.
I can't.
It sounds like a very immersive experience.
It is. It really is. And in Saw 5, that scene where that guy's head is in the box and it fills up with water. Yes. I mean, he did that for real. That is not CGI. He did that for real. They had paramedics there just in case. Like and I was in hair and makeup at that time. And I couldn't even go watch it because just the idea of it, like a lot of people went to watch him shoot it. And I was like, I'm having a panic attack sitting in the makeup chair knowing I'm here.
Right.
like in the studio,
Right.
knowing this scene's being shot. Like it, and I mean, kudos to him for doing it. I couldn't have done that.
Yeah,
That was intense.
that sounds like your worst nightmare. You already mentioned you don't like water, and then that's
Yeah.
like that's the worst case.
Yeah, you're never gonna see me in Titanic 2, you know.
The crazy thing is him being in his head in that box wasn't even the worst thing that happened to him in that movie. Whew. We're
I know, but he was a good. I mean, he tried everything. He did everything. He was good.
That's awesome.
I love Peter Strom. Were you ever contacted for Saw 3D? You know, they had in that movie they had like survivors of Jigsaw's games doing the like the meetings together. Did you ever get contacted about? I'm just
I did.
curious.
No, I didn't, and I was bummed because I was one of the few survivors. So
Right.
I was kind of bummed that I wasn't. But I think maybe they thought they emotionally damaged me so much that
Because I think the guy you were in the final game with was in that like the meeting assembly. I think he was there.
yeah. And I worked with one of the producers on another movie. So I thought for sure, like, but they never asked me to come back. So
Yeah, they probably thought you were too traumatized. Like we don't need to put her through this again.
it was a really traumatizing experience. I had my dog Bamboo, who has since passed away, but he was a puppy then, and they would put him in the traps and take pictures of him to make me laugh. And like he would like, you know, the blood from the when the girl got her head chopped off, that's like just like corn syrup or whatever with food coloring. And so like little Bamboo was like they took pictures of him like looking at the head and like trying to make me laugh. And but yeah, it was definitely a traumatic experience. But I loved it. I mean, listen, it's an amazing franchise. Just because it terrifies me does not negate what it just that's how good it is. Like
Mm-hmm.
that's how good it is. And it's the longest running, most successful horror franchise I think in history. Am I correct?
I believe it.
It's one of them for sure.
Yeah, off the top of my head, probably about one.
So it's absolutely incredible. It's just little me is a little scaredy cat.
And this is the last question I'm going to ask, and we'll get off of it. I don't want you to be too traumatized. But
It's
you know,
okay.
like I mentioned earlier, me and Brian, we met you at Spooky Empire in October,
Yes.
and I remember talking to you a little bit about Billy the puppet. Then and I showed you my phone, and you were still scared. Have you been able to overcome that yet? It doesn't sound like it, but does that doll still haunt you?
That doll haunts me, and that doll shows up sometimes at conventions, and people love to bring it by me because I immediately like.
I've got one, but I won't.
No, I don't. Please don't. No, there's something so creepy about that pup. I mean, listen. So the director of Saw 5 was David Hackle, and I think he was the set designer for all the previous Saws. I mean, just such incredible talent and team. Like they really. Sorry, my dog's coming up here. They really know how to. They know what they're doing. Like they are experts at like giving you nightmares.
Yeah, it's a traumatizing franchise for sure. So